I think that in your life and in my life, when I made the biggest investments, my life changed immediately when they were in me, big dollars towards me. And before I ever did anything with the money I invested into a program or into a mastermind, it's like I just showed like I'm worth that.
Yeah, somebody said once, they said that transformation happens at the transaction. I really like that, right? Because you just said it. It's like we're telling ourselves we have value to invest in. We are worth it. It's an honor, man. It's always fun showing your craft to my audience.
So one of the things I want to do is I'm rewriting Killing Sacred Cows, my first book, New York Times bestseller. And what in the case studies the first time around, it was pretty much just case studies of people that were doing, cool things. But at the time I was super young. I was in my 20s. And what I want to do is step it up to people who are living at the highest level so that we can create a new standard. And I feel like that's something that you do in your life. And so one of the chapters, and I label the chapters as the myth.
Okay.
So one of the myths is it's all about the numbers. So like people think, I think the things that are most important in our life, we can't quantify, right?
Yeah, they're not quantified.
And I want to just hear, like, how do you view money? What do you think money is? How do you describe it? How do you internalize it? Like,
That's a beautiful question. As you ask the question, I go straight to energy. I think that money is a form of capturing energy, and it's like, it's both a way for me to buy energy for me. It's a way for me to store energy. I can trade it. It's a physical, mechanical energy of labor. It's also a creative energy of ideation. But that's the way I think about it. And I think like what's cool is to consider that like every day there's $1 trillion that exchange hands every day, and it's available to all of us if people are willing to like lean in and figure out how to become more valuable, or to create the skill set of value, which is kind of like figuring out how to turn the knob on the radio to the right
frequency.
Yeah, frequency and channel so that you can like pick it up. So
how'd you do that? How did you figure that out?
Man, it's been a journey though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I go back to in my 20s, because I almost look at my life in like these 5-year chunks. It started off by just creating some space from the negativity, right? So I grew up in a really challenging environment, hanging out with people I shouldn't have been, got in trouble with the law and drugs and that kind of stuff. So it's like step one was just like environment cleansing. So that was probably 20 to 25, 17 to 25. Then it was, okay, thoughts. So prior to I didn't even think that thoughts were a thing. It turns out that your thoughts, quality of your thoughts dictate the quality of your life. So I would say
quality of your questions, quality of your thoughts,
all of it. So 25 to 30 was very thought focused of like, hey, let's create a vision board. Let's create goals. Let's, manage our projects. Let's be intentional about what we focus on. Let's stop listening to the news, like all that stuff. Right. So that was 25 to 30. I'd say 30 to 35 was the beginning of how do I tap into the higher energy levels that are always around us, right? What some people will call universal mind or universal consciousness or source or whatever. So like a spiritual component.
What'd you start doing to make that happen?
I went to a Tony Robbins event, and that was where I kind of felt for the first time in my life this concept of source, right? Or like full flood of gratitude. And it wasn't as profound as I've had since then, but I still remember.
That was the crack.
Dude, I felt it. Like once I felt it, I was like, whoa, that's what it is? Like this pure oneness, this gratitude for all of it. That was like, okay, how do I live in that place? And, so that was like 30 to 35. And, we started having a young family and kids and like just trying to be really intentional about the energy and the perspective I was bringing into the family. Cause now when I had my first son, it was like, for the first time in my life, I'm responsible for someone that will live and create way past my time here on earth. Like that was a big revelation. Like my son, Max, taught me by his birth, this is bigger than you, ding dong. Like, Dan, you think? No, this is generation, like how you show up for that kid is going to set a completely different trajectory for hundreds of thousands of people into the future, right? Granted, if, that was what I knew at the time. Now, I think I've evolved in a little bit different, but that was progress. That was
moving beyond, reactionary product
Zero.
of the environment.
Yeah, I got really
all those
curious
kind of
about
things.
emotional, and dude, I use it all the time. So just like anytime I feel emotions come up, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Presence, power of now. So and then just evolved into okay, how can I play with this alchemy? Like it's all there. How can I use it to create and design? And that's where 35 to 40, now I'm 44. I just continue to the financial stuff. I think, there's just the different levels, right? Where you literally live, probably in debt, not even paycheck to paycheck. You're going backwards every month to eventually living paycheck to paycheck, probably making some money, buying stupid. I went through all those stages to eventually having a windfall of surplus, but then not really having the proper mindset to luckily I one thing I did that one of my first mentors, Ken, said to me, he said, take half and put it away. Don't mess with it. Because he said a lot of people can create wealth, they can't keep it. He said at minimum, don't pour all of it back into your next company, because that's what a lot of people do. So he gave me at least that advice. Hey, take half of it, put it in an index fund. Don't think about it. You don't need to go become a professional investor. You're not that smart. I said, well, I want to do angel investing. He said, okay, well, take a piece of it and do angel investing, but don't mess with half of it. Okay, that was really good advice in hindsight. Trusted, blind faith, didn't know if it was good advice. And then eventually you get to a place where you live in a way, my lifestyle today, there's a surplus, right?
Yeah. How much does money govern, dictate, or inform your actions right now?
Zero.
That's financial freedom, right? So this is the crazy thing. Most people believe that financial freedom is money in a bank account.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or an amount of money, but it's when money's no longer the primary reason or excuse we do or don't do something,
cool.
Which means it's not about the numbers.
Oh, that's so good.
Right? So and
it's funny because it's a psychological thing, because I would say
it's a state of being.
I'm married to a beautiful woman who's incredibly evolved that still asks me, how much is that? And I go, why does that matter? We were literally going to rent a movie on Saturday, and it was $24. Apple, they
and Canadian dollars was 3 cents.
It was 400,000. Yeah, it was. It's real money.
And a few loonies.
Yeah, and the toonies and loonies, and I was like, babes, what are we doing? You want the movie? Oh, I don't want to pay $24 to rent a movie. Because rentals used to be $4, but all of a sudden now they became 24. And for her, she almost stopped herself from getting the movie she wanted to get. And it was fascinating to even watch that. I'm not wasteful, right? I just bought a car, but I'm not buying it. It's used, it's a good deal. I'm not wasteful.
Well, even the questions you were asking of what's something that I could love and enjoy and share and have it actually hold or gain value.
That was
you
it.
added. See, it's a consideration still. Money's a consideration.
Yep.
It's just not the consideration.
That's a good
And that's a key distinction. And so I think that most people, when they find out that I've been in the money world, think I'm really amazing with spreadsheets and that I'm really good at looking at all the details of numbers. I actually have people that are really good at that. I just understand it as a concept and a philosophy. And it's more about the human psyche and the human being. And when, you've said this, and I've had people say this to me, is I think that in your life and in my life, when I made the biggest investments, my life changed immediately when they were in me, big dollars towards me. And before I ever did anything with the money I invested into a program or into a mastermind, it's I just showed I'm worth that.
Yeah, somebody said once, they said that transformation happens at the transaction. I really like that, right? Because you just said it. It's we're telling ourselves we have value to invest in. We are worth it.
Hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And if you're enjoying these videos, well, there's good news. More where that came from. So go ahead and click through and watch the next video now.